Welcome to my channel, 12 Bells. My name is 12, and I want to say happy St. Patrick's Day. I also want to say hotep to all my brothers and sisters. Lucky, lucky that my four-leaf clovers. Lucky you. Happy Women's History Month. I do think I have a banner saying that. Let me see. I do. So happy Women's History Month. Today, I wasn't really focusing on women's history by my title, but I do want to acknowledge that we're celebrating St. Patrick's Day today. And for the month of March, we're celebrating Women's History Month. But today, my topic is about how it seems like as an organizer in New York City, in activists serving the people. From my personal experience, I find that it feels like pawns against pawns. And the reason why I say that is because whilst you enter into the community, if people don't know you, you get a lot of resistance, right? Because you're not already within the network. At least that's been my experience. So coming into the community to find out who do I go to address my issues, who can help me right away. If the person, so I'm going to go by my experience, right? So as a New York City Housing Authority resident, we used to be called public housing, right? So it was PHA for Public Housing Authority. And then clearly it has changed to New York City Housing Authority. As a resident, I had started asking questions about housing issues. How do we advocate properly? How do we get things addressed? And I was told that I do that through my tenant association. And my tenant association at the time was not posting their monthly meeting schedule. So I was not aware that my building had a tenant association. It was, of course, I I had to. So number one, right? I had to find someone that would give me the information to when they were meeting, since it was not being publicly posted, which by their bylaws it's supposed to. But you have what's written and what's supposed to happen, and then you have reality, and that's with any and everything, especially when it comes to tricks, politics. So I find that you have a lot of politics, especially in underserved areas where there are disenfranchised people, uneducated people, and people that are unemployed. So there's a lot of problems in environments like that. So I had to ask around and be determined, right? So I had to be determined that I was going to get what I wanted, right? Even in the run around and people saying, I don't know. That's something that people love to say. They love to say, I don't know. And in reality, oftentimes they don't know because it's not being publicly posted. No one's having a conversation about it, right? So I kept asking around and um, started going to other buildings within the development. And I found a woman who said to me, "Oh, give me your number and I'll call you when the next meeting is." She wouldn't give me the date. She asked for my phone number and told me she'll call me to let me know. You know that never happened. I had to keep going. I did give her my number, but she wanted me to allegedly stop now because she's like, I'll let you know. You're not letting me know anything. Give me the date. So I had to keep asking, right? That was the senior, and I eventually found a senior that didn't mind telling me. So I went to my tenant association meeting, which was occupied only by seniors, right? Very small group. And they're representing 35 buildings, right? So my development at the time was 35 buildings. And we have this little small group of seniors that's representing all of those buildings with no meetings in any of the buildings. Like, right. So it's been taking me almost a whole month to find out about a monthly meeting that's supposed to be publicly posted. But anyway, I'm there. So I'm at the meeting, and first thing is, who are you? What building do you live in? Because right away they're trying to act like I'm at the wrong place. Like I would literally come out of my way to the wrong place. No, I know where I'm going, and I'm looking for you, right? So I come in, right, and they're like, "What building?" You tell them the building, and then of course, one of the woman that asked me for my phone number, she's like, "Oh, hi. Oh, I was meaning to tell you," you know. So basically, almost everybody that I asked that didn't give me the information was present at this meeting. I'm just looking. I got no words, because it's a waste of, it's ineffective, in my opinion, to want to call people out at a time of a meeting that you want to be a part of. You know what I'm saying? But you're supposed to know. You note that the fact that none of these people was trying to let you get here. You got one person that let you get here, and I don't think that person that told me about it was present. So I get to meet the TA president and the board, which at the time was not fully they didn't have all their members. I find that that's something that you often encounter too. So they usually never have a full board because somebody that um, ran for the position finds out that it's not what they thought it was going to be, and they just don't want to be a part of it anymore because it's so corrupt. So they'll be like, I don't want no parts of it. And instead of the body of people, because they're not educated to know the rules, insist on someone getting voted in to replace that person, they just leave these positions vacant. And the president basically is the only one running everything. They're the treasurer, they're the secretary, they're everything. And when it comes down to it, they're doing all of the components, and they are the only ones that know things. But there's some people, they just like to have a position anyway, and they just sit there because they're before other people. They just like to look important, but they really don't know anything. They're just old people that are happy to have this little, they've made it a country club now. They get together, they have they have little things, they're having fun, they're talking, you know, and they don't want to do really any work. So there's a lot of problems. And what's the real problem is that I find that it's pawns with pawns at this level, right? You're not with anybody big. You're not meeting you. First of all, you don't know about the resident council of presidents, and you may never learn about them if you have this level of secrecy and just so this little private social club, right? So you're not going to learn anything. So there's a big problem, right? Number one, how long has you? They're not likely going to answer these questions. One of the things you want to know is how long has your TA president been the president? If they've been the president for decades, there's likely corruption, because what's going on here? And another way to identify if it's real corruption is they start screaming that all of a sudden they start talking about everything they've done for free. I've never gotten paid. Who's talking about that? Like all automatically they start talking about it. There's a problem. And it's like we keep having these conversations. I got involved in my community in 2001. I was recently at a public housing meeting and they have the exact same issue. So we were telling me that people are in a hamster, they're in a hamster um wheel. Everybody's just running. The hamsters, some hamsters die and they just add new hamsters on the wheel. It doesn't make any sense. Now, one of the things that I used to experience, and I'm telling you, everything that I was experiencing, I had already determined in my mind that we weren't gonna keep doing this. Okay. One of the things that would often happen when I would come to my monthly tenant meeting is that they would say, some old person would stand up and they would say, I know everybody in here. And I didn't know them. Right. So one meeting, because I was tired of it, I stood up and said, I don't know you. So now now we get controversy. We're getting controversy. People putting on their little recorders, their audio recorders, because a lot of them seniors, they would have recorders. They would push play because they working for somebody. It's just the stupidest stuff would be going on, right? So anyway, from my experience, it will always be a senior get up and say, everybody know me and I know everybody. And I stood up and I said, I don't know you. I said, what's my name? And the woman was like, and it's making everybody talk. Because black people, first of all, they love some foolishness anyway. They love it. So when you really in the game of things, you ready to play some, be ready to play games. Be ready to start, be ready to be ready. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the only way you're going to get attention. Because people, they got nothing better to do. Now, again, I'm at a meeting that's supposed to be a publicly posted meeting. The meeting was not publicly posted until I started attending. And I had to complain about it. I said there was no posting in my building. And they would say, well, somebody must have tore it off. I said, but what if nobody even posted it? Who's responsible for posting it? What? We found out that each building had a building captain. I asked, who's my building captain for my building? And then, of course, I had one, a senior, some immobile senior. Like they're giving these people positions that they know they can't do it. They always sickly. They're always the people that have the most responsibility in a lot of these disenfranchised communities are disabled seniors that are always going to the hospital. They always have something happening to them. and they're the ones responsible with no backups. Like, okay, so if you have that kind of situation, you need to have another person, right? But they don't want another person. They just want to be able to say someone's responsible for it, and they don't care if it gets done or not because it's politics. Pawns versus pawns. No one's getting anywhere, and they're not intended to get anywhere. We're here to just be in a bucket, grabbing each other back down. You know what I'm saying? We're here to just argue with each other about insignificant things. And you would have to already come into it with a a mission to educate everyone in the room and to have a mission to get somewhere outside of the norm of foolishness that they have already adjusted to, right? One of the ways I would go about it is I would invite people to the meetings. And so on the next month, it will be me and 6 other people. And the TA president would get upset, of course, saying, "Who are you? What building are you from? Well, you ain't never been here. I ain't never seen you. I've been here 20 years and you never came to the meeting." So automatically, you have people being met with aggressive behavior. The tenant association president did not want new people, so they did not receive them. So that's a problem too. So she would be so agitated. And this is common, right? So it was a common ongoing thing where people who's hiding that they were having meetings in the first place are going to be aggressive and dismissive, and they're going to try to discourage you from coming back, even though this is your bill, this is your meetings, this is where you're supposed to go to get. It's hilarious. Like your building management meets here, your local NYCHA police are here, and this is an important meeting. And they discourage people from going. It's because outrage is it's really weird, and you get to see politics, right? But if you make sure you invite people that don't know, you put more pressure on the current resident leadership, because people start talking, it's just natural, right? And they'll be like, you know what? I was treated real nasty at the tenant meeting. Like, who the hell are these people here? Like, what kind of craziness? And they start talking because they want it to stay the same, and it's not going to stay the same. Like, you have to already come in with you have to already have decided that you're not going to let it stay as it is. And this is ridiculous, and I shouldn't have to go through this much, and I'm not going to continue to do this. It's always going to be something different. I'm going to make it miserable for you because you're getting on my nerves, and it's just the way it's going to have to be, because um, the people don't want to change because they haven't had to change. And unfortunately, in corrupt areas, no matter how much turnover you have, if if the top is corrupt, it just continues to be corrupt. Pawns versus pawns. And you can't get out of the secrecy and the fact that the board won't stay its term. And you find that with so many of it's just constantly ongoing, right? So, like, you'll have this so right, so when you're having a meeting, you're supposed to have quorum in order for you to move anything forward when it comes to the group making decisions. And you don't have quorum if the majority of your board has quit, and you're not trying to have a special election to re-elect new people, because you're going to pretend that everybody's in position because you're corrupt, right? So people that are operating in a corrupt way, they did the process properly. Everybody signed their names, and on paper, you have a full operating board. But in reality, how things are moving is not that way. And that's because people leave without doing a letter of resignation. They do not resign properly, right? So they're not document. It's no document of it. They just say, I'm not. I'm done. They just stop going. Like it's just that way. Like we voted you in, and you can just stop at any time. Like you have, like, all of a sudden you don't have a contract. You have to resign. Like, where's your letter of resignation? Like, what's going on here? When did you decide that you didn't want to serve, and what was the reason? Like, you don't have that. It's hilarious. Your secretary is supposed to have the documentation. You present it to the board for, you have to reelect someone. You have to, if somebody has to take over that position. That doesn't happen. Commonly it doesn't happen. You just have um someone taking everybody's position. Somebody always doing something that they didn't get elected to do. Like, you wasn't elected to do that, you know. And the board, right, never tells the body that there are changes, right? They don't tell anybody that there's been any changes, because they don't have to. No one's making them. No one makes them do anything, because no one knows. No one's building power, right? So there's no power. Uh, there's no education going on, because people want to stay in their position forever. So if I'm educating you on how things work, you may say, you know what? I think I'm interested in trying that, like a real democracy, and decide that you want to run. They're not going to try to do that. So you don't know. You don't know what's going on. It just looks like a bunch of seniors sitting around, um, talking about the same thing. Like, every time you go to the meeting, it seems like it's the exact same thing. And you could challenge that if you're not getting an agenda. Like, the way to address that is, you say, where's the agenda for this meeting today? Because everybody's supposed to get an agenda, which that doesn't happen a lot with meetings in public housing, right? So you go to your resident association meeting, and there's supposed to be an agenda. And the agenda's purpose is so you can know what's old business, what's new business, right? So it should never be the same thing every month if you have an agenda and if they're following it, right? It's impossible. But you can have old business that doesn't move if you don't have quorum, right? Because you don't have a full operating board that can vote. And you can't argue that if you don't have an agenda. Like, you have your agenda, and it should state that um our corresponding secretary resigned on whatever date, right? Right, legally. But nobody's doing anything legal, right? So our corresponding secretary resigned, and also our treasurer, because a lot of times all of these people, they go. and you have like two, three people operating. I've very rarely been to meetings where you had a functional sergeant of arms. And so you have the sergeant of arms, you have the and a lot of I've been to so many meetings where they do not have both a recording and corresponding secretary. Um, you supposed to have a president, a vice president. Some have first vice president, second vice president, third vice president. That's hardly ever. You have all these components, right? And somehow before a 6 month period, like everybody's gone. Only the president's there. No, it's hilarious. And you know, it's just ongoing. It's like, how is this possible? Like, you go to the secretary and you say, "Can I have the minutes from the last meeting?" And they'll be like, um, well, we read the minutes. We don't have the Our copy machine is broken or whatever. So you could email it to me. They never do it. It's just never they're never doing that kind of stuff. And it doesn't make any sense. And how would they if you have a bunch of seniors that are not into that level of technology? You're not even getting agendas. And then it's like, how are we still here? How are we still in the same hamster wheel running around doing the exact same stuff? Like, how is that possible? It's so funny to me because um you would think that you've made an impact, where you've moved the needle forward, and then so to go back to a meeting that you haven't been to, like I haven't been going to NYCHA meetings, to go to the meeting and they're still talking about stuff that you experienced day one when you was advocating is so disappointing, because like people change positions just so people can start day one and do the same pawn on pawn stuff. Like they have no interest of making sense. And it's like, how is that possible? Like, I feel like the information is out there. So I have to just accept the reality that that's the system and that's how the system works. The system works by you never following your bylaws. You don't even give the members a copy of the bylaws, right? So you are in most of these groups now, most of these resident associations are 501c3s. Like somebody helped them file that paperwork so they can get additional funding streams. Anyway, I wanted to just highlight this. At my last meeting that I went to, I already moved it up to where I wanted it to be. Um, we're here at this point because this person that you're going to see speaking name is Manny Martinez. And Manny Martinez is South Jamaica House's resident council president. And people don't often know about resident council presidents because resident council presidents are a step higher than your resident leader that's in your local um, development, right? So your development, the people are supposed to vote in your leadership, and they become the representatives of that development. But your president of your development can run for a citywide or bigger, bigger position, which is the resident council of presidents. The council of presidents is called, it's a citywide council of presidents. They call it CCOP. And so this man that's getting ready to talk is a CCOP member. And, for me, right? So my advocacy in my development was never received well from my TA president. My TA president did not want to work with me, regardless of the fact that I was a resident. And out of that reality, High Trucker Z, Buenos tardes. Out of that reality, people was talking, and an independent nonprofit public housing organization picked me up, and I became a citywide representative for housing, and I would go to different developments throughout the city, and that was under the community council. That was under CSS. So the count, it was what does that stand for? Community Service Society. CSS had a poverty advocacy component that they branched out to NYCHA residents, and those residents reached out to me, had me come meet at their independent location, which was at CSS on 23rd Street between Park and 3rd Avenue. Is it Park and 3rd? No, Park and Lexington. And residents from the entire city would come to those meetings, just like if you was on the citywide council of presidents. Right? So, but this is independent. It's running under the umbrella of CSS, which is a nonprofit with a poverty advocacy component. Like all of these nonprofits, they have things that require them to address systemic poverty. How can we address it? What can we do to help? And they're nonprofits, and there's nonprofits that try to work with poverty-stricken areas, and a way to work with people deemed as that is to have a relationship with NYCHA residents, right? New York City Housing Authority residents. So there's nonprofits that work with people that are identified as poor people in poor areas, and you can get trained and have advocacy through that. And you will learn, because there are a bunch of college educated people that don't live in a poverty stricken environment, right? They're college people and so forth. So this meeting is in Hunter College amongst a bunch of students. And if you so desire, you could come as a public housing resident, because that's the topic that they're talking about. And I wanted you to hear Manny talk, because Manny Martinez said something very interesting. He had an article written about him. Oh, you don't see it clear. How is that? It's an article written about him that I thought was awesome. Of course, I had an article written about me. I was written about in the city limits. When the city limits had a actual physical magazine, now I think it's only online, but they used to have circulation of magazines, and I was in it. They featured me because of my advocacy with my development, which is 35 buildings. That's it's a huge development, and it's it's amazing that it doesn't seem like any of the work I've done all that time I put in it stuck, right? It didn't like make the needle move because I come to this meeting and having the same conversations, which was just like, how is that possible? I thought, see, that's another thing. Like when we take our experience and act like that's everybody's experience, when in reality, we could be having a very limited experience. Like we're meeting a lot of people, right? But it's not enough. We're meeting a lot of people. And it feels like we're impacting so many people, but we're not impacting. I don't even see. You also have to know we might be impacting people, but they're not public housing people. Like you're meeting people, they don't live in NYCHA, so that's my impact on you. It's not helping public housing residents if you're not living there. You know, so it's like we always have to really be clear. Are we impacting the people that we have sought out to impact? Because we can get a lot of people. I remember um, I was meeting a lot of students all the time in the community. They're not in public housing. You knew it's just crazy. But let's share this right here. This is my video. So it's coming from my own channel. You can see this video on my channel. And this is a clip of Manny talking that I wanted you to hear.
So I just wanted to clear up a couple of misconceptions, right? So for one, NYCHA has an annual contributions contract with HUD. The mayor does not control NYCHA. So before the 2019 agreement, the CEO served at the mayor's pleasure, but he didn't have direct control over NYCHA. So, and then, his support in this, or him saying, no, we're going to stop this, really wouldn't stop it. It would be because it's a Section 18 application that the Housing Authority puts to HUD. HUD agrees with it because this is federal funds. The second thing is NYCHA, not NYCHA, public housing is because NYCHA is not public housing. NYCHA is an entity that goes into a contract to give federal subsidies under Section 9 to run public housing in the same way that they go into a contract to get Section 8 funds, right? So they just the conduit to manage and operate this. There's no time limit on public housing. Public housing, when it was first created, was never temporary, never became temporary. The idea of temporary started coming around when public housing became predominantly black and Hispanic. Okay. It became like, and it also became this sentiment to attack or demonize our communities. But I wanted to ask a question to Jonathan, right? So in the approach that they were giving you, because you said that somebody from the city came and knocked on your door and said, "What's it going to? Oh, why aren't you moving?" Yeah. What was there in that conversation? Because I'm pretty sure, like it wasn't just to come down and say, why aren't you moving? And did they threaten you, or was there what was the theme of the conversation, the context.
It was more like questioning of why we're not transitioning into the PAC program. What is it that we want out of it and stuff like that. What I found odd about it is that somebody from City Hall was knocking. It was going around the building looking for the tenants to talk
The
to in
housing
general.
commissioner, right?
Yeah,
Deputy
the deputy
mayor.
mayor.
Deputy mayor.
Deputy mayor. So
But was it an assessment to see what you didn't like, or was it something to kind of like
No,
push you towards leaving?
more like she wanted us to she wanted to understand why we're not signing, so she can clarify it why we should sign.
She was trying to
She
convince
was
you
trying to convince
to leave.
us. Yes. She was trying to also reach out to other neighbors that's the remaining neighbors that's in the building. However, she was only able to really get to us because at first, my mother had answered, but she didn't know who she was at first until she did introduce herself. It wasn't like a threat, like you gotta leave right now. But it was very weird to having somebody from City Hall on a Sunday at 7 o'clock at night in the building.
Did you get a position or a
Okay,
name from that person? I'm sorry to ask that. Just last clarifying, what was the position of the person that,
She's
like,
the deputy mayor.
the deputy mayor?
That's Layla Bazoum.
Layla Bizot.
Oh, look at this. Okay, we're gonna.
You want to just go this way or? Now, wait, I think there was
No,
a
I think we have
there.
it in order.
Well, there was
This
one there.
person, this person, then this person, then back.
And this person?
This young guy. Yes,
And then that one, right? And then
this person, this person.
The other people are like students, I don't know them. I wanted to just focus on the fact that you have a lot of educated resident leaders, right? They've had articles written about them and they've done all this work. And yet, the majority of the residents are unaware of their rights. They are fighting amongst themselves, pawns against pawns, and they're they're not moving anything forward. You know what I'm saying? And it's like so frustrating to me because Manny and all his work, I didn't know him. I asked who is that person, and somebody that knew him sent me the article. I didn't know anything about him. So I just know that he spoke very well, and it drew me to want to explore more about him. But the bigger picture for me is how, with all the work that he's done, and the fact that there has been an article, but it never circulated to me. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that is very interesting as well. I also feel like we have this ongoing issue with the game of good cop, bad cop. I feel that when we find people that are allegedly, I'm going to take something to drink. We got to talk about the good cop, bad cop component because we always have these district leaders and advocates from the nonprofits and so forth that like to try to say that they're working with us when they're really working with the establishment, and they're really just trying to identify who's getting in the way of their plans moving forward, who's giving them resistance. That's what they're looking for. That's who they're trying to identify. And they play like they can understand us with the whole good cop, bad cop. The same way the Democrats and the Republicans work, whereas they're on the same team. They just, somebody's got to play bad, somebody's got to play good. And I just don't want people to forget, because some people just didn't know that President Trump was a Democrat longer than he has been a Republican. And the reason why he switched parties is because Democrats were not voting for him. So he decided to go the Republican way and play the cards that the Republicans wanted him to play so he can get into the position that he wanted. And that's what a lot of people do. And some people don't like that kind of political move, but we're aware that people do it. It's like some people feel like that's not, you're not being true to yourself, that's not integrity, but people do operate in a way that they're lying the whole time. They're not, they are not doing anything truthful, and they don't value integrity. Like, that's not one of their values. So a perfect example of that would be um, a person that has presented that they are heterosexual, and they have been with the opposite sex on record, and they eye a position that a person that is interested in the same sex um, holds, and that person will play up to them when they have presented to everyone that they are heterosexual. But because that person isn't heterosexual and they know that they are into that, they're into you, they're going to play up to that, because they have no integrity. They have no scruples. They're dangerous people. They're wolves in sheep's clothing. They lie to get what they want. And it's crazy when you talk to people and people act like that's so shocking. Like, people do it all the time. And they do it because they want whatever they want. And they're going to do whatever to get it. This is what they do. They don't care. And that's why it's crazy when you try to act like, as an adult, that you can follow along with this fairy tale thing. That's not being an adult. Like an adult is supposed to know that people lie. They have no. I mean, if you don't see any, if you don't see any evidence that comes along with a person what they said, you have to be cautious that they could be lying. And what I mean by that is, everything that a person says they're doing, they should be able to um, show you something that they did it, right? So, what I mean by that, giving you an example, is if I say that um, I called someone, you should be able to say, well, show me proof, and I can show you a missed call, the attempts of outreach that I made. Proper attempts of outreach is a call with a voice message and a follow up with a text and an email if you have that person's email. You want to do that because you want to definitely show that you've made your attempts to reach this person, right? So, what I mean is that um, I called you, you didn't pick up, I left a message. After I leave the message, I send you a text. Oh, I made an attempt to reach you. Um, I left a message. Please get back to me at your earliest convenience. If I have your email, I email you that I made attempt to reach you. I left a voice message and a text. I hope to hear from you at your earliest convenience. And if you're employee, if you're a professional, then you can CC your supervisor on that email where you just said that you've made several attempts to reach this person. So they can't say that you didn't call them at all because people lie. So you have to have a a method of showing that you're doing what you said you did whilst you are disclaiming this person saying that you didn't do it because people lie all the time. Adults, children, everybody, people lie. So to not have um some kind of um documentation stating that you reached out to people when you have to reach out to people is is immature and not professional. You have to be able to document that you've made outreach, especially on serious matters. And I find that a lot of people that are full of they're used to lying to people and they don't have to um they don't have to be accountable for their actions. They don't have if you ask them, well, when did you make that phone call? How did you what when did you can you show me in your phone records the call that you they're gonna have a fit. You know, did you follow up with an email? Did you follow up with a text? Can I see the text that you sent? It's so funny to me. People get mad, but people lie. People lie because they don't want to do what they said they're gonna do. And so I get frustrated when it seems like these kind of things was already established and then you meet a new group of people and they don't have they're playing those games like they can't prove anything to you. I posted. Okay, so one of the things that is just what they do, they'll say I posted that we was having a monthly meeting in the lobby. Okay, so did you take a picture that you posted it? Huh? My phone. I don't have a phone. My memory is full. You went to do flyering alone? You didn't have another person with you? The other person could have took the picture. Like they're not about being honest. Because if you was about making sure that these people do their job, you would have posters in your lobby because you want to make sure that they can prove that they did it. But people are not demanding that. So people BS all day. And it shouldn't we at a point where there shouldn't be that. You can take a picture that you posted in this building. I mean, stop. It's just so it's literally you have ways to show that you're doing your job. But you can't show and you can't have that conversation because you're not doing the job. You understand what I'm saying? Like when you don't do something, you can't have a discussion on how you can prove that you did it because you're not doing it. So how are you gonna have a conversation on how I can prove it? How are you gonna have a conversation about dotting the I's and crossing the T's if you don't dot and cross your T's? If you do it, then you of course you can have a conversation about how I can establish that I've done it because you doing it. What are you talking about? Like, It's just crazy. How would I be able to show you that I did it? I said I did it. Well, do you have a picture? What time did you do it? You telling me that you went to every building, and every building you went to, they took down the sign? That's unlikely. And listen, and you go to the building, because I do this. I go to buildings and I flyer. You go to the building from my experience, and I might be having an experience that other people don't, right? Because I've already established that I'm about business, right? So I've been to buildings where I flyered a month ago, and the same flyer that I posted a month ago is still posted. So how you telling me you flyer in every building that you flyed in, the poster that you flyed is gone? That's interesting. And if that's the case, I that for me would warrant that you then now you have to go to different floors. You can't just post in the lobby then. You can't just post in your lobby because for some reason you flyered every building in your development, and every building in your development didn't have that flyer. So that would warrant to me that you need to flyer on other floors, right by the elevator. You flyer right by the elevator. You can do a random floor to make sure that it's been posted and that somebody likely can see that. And it really don't make no sense at this point with technology, because you have a meeting, you ask for people's email addresses. There should be an electronic outreach for your tenants. The people that attended that have phone numbers can get it via text. And the people, you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's no excuse. You get people's phone numbers and you get people's email addresses. You can do a text, you can do email. So those people definitely will get the information. The people that you're doing the posters in the lobby for are people that haven't attended in the past. You're always making attempts to do new outreach. And you should have people that are willing from the group that you meet with monthly to do outreach, fresh new outreach, because you likely see the same people every month, so you know who's new. If you are not lying, if you're not lying, you know, but because people lie, they act like they're doing everything they could do. It's impossible for you to tell me that you've talked to every single person in your building. No. There's so many people in the building, and they're going to be moving on shifts because some people work. And those people hardly ever get information, which is so concerning to me, right? Like, you want people of substance. You want to include everybody, especially the people of substance. So having something that is excluding your working class is asinine. You have working class in your development, you should have some type of newsletter that you can get to them either virtually, like there's a way. And why isn't this happening disturbs me. It really does, because it's like, there's no reason we shouldn't have information going out in public housing developments. And a lot of people, they still don't know about resident leadership. They don't know that there's local, citywide, and national resident leadership. There and it's like that's been something that's been going on. And I feel it goes back to good cop, bad cop conversations. Now I had put this up because I wanted to read this because I find it important. So it reads understanding good cop, bad cop technique. Good cop, bad cop is a psychological tactic used in interrogations and negotiations where two people take opposing roles to influence the subject's behavior. How it works. Bad cop takes an aggressive, confrontational stance, making accusations, threats, and derogatory comments to create fear or discomfort. Good cop acts friendly, empathetic, and supportive, aiming to build trust and rapport. The idea is that the subject may feel more comfortable cooperating with the good cop because they are perceived as trustworthy, while the bad cop hostility creates pressure to avoid confrontation. In negotiations, the bad cop can imply that if no deal is reached, they will return to push harder. Origins and use. Commonly used in police interrogations as a part of the read technique. Also applied in business negotiations to encourage agreement by contrasting pressure with reassurance. The roles can be reversed. The good cop may do most of the talking with the bad cop intervening to apply pressure. Now, the point of this is the fact that I find that when it comes to us talking to politicians, the politicians act like, you know, they're empathizing with us when they really are in the side of who's ever funding their campaign, which is likely not the public housing resident. Um, they're going to be siding with the contractors, the people who are um, putting thousands of dollars in their campaign endeavors, right? So we meet somebody that says they're into the community, but their real desires are to be next level in the political game. So we might meet them as a community organizer, but that community organizer wants to be the councilman or wants to be the borough president. So their initial outreach to the community is just so they can secure votes, so they can establish name and facial recognition, so you can have a sense of them and trust them. But they really want to be something more, right? And though that doesn't often work because usually the person that's already in position is locked in, you know, they already have their minions within the group telling them everything that's going on, you know. Um, but they're making an effort. And the thing that's crazy is that a lot of these people, they're coming from another state and they want to be in some kind of political position. And it's weird to me. And I'm like, are you serious? It's like, like you don't even live, you're not even from this area. You're not from this city. And you're talking about you want this, you want that. But again, we're running a hamster wheel. And it drives me crazy. I'll show you an example of the hamster wheel. Hamsters just running the hamster wheel. Going nowhere. Perfect. Let me show you the hamster wheel. That's what we do. And we're doing this again because people are not giving people strategic information on how to go about things, you would really have to go to a nonprofit. The nonprofit has people who are actually trying to empower individuals to be independent, do their own thing, and advocate for themselves. But the majority of people that are usually in position and a lot of these public housing things, they don't have anything going for them. This is the biggest and best thing. Public housing leadership usually gets asked to go to many different events. They meet the mayor. Usually, I don't know what they're doing with Zoran. You see, it was yelling at Zoran. Do you know that? Like Zoran's kind of like giving public housing residents the backhand, right? And public housing resident leadership is not trying to hear that. But he hasn't been like other mayors that know. So usually the mayor like invites them to things, and that's how they get corrupt, because they have the solidarity with people that they don't want to go against, right? And it just gets it just it seems like the people that know are not educating the residents. That's where it just comes down to, because how are we still doing the same thing? How are we still having the same problem? That's what's weird. But I wanted to show you, I could show you that video of a recent bad tenant meeting that they had, where they didn't okay, what was it? Night. Okay. This is just disturbing to me, because it seems like we have new leadership, and the people, they didn't make a good impression on this mayor here, because the mayor thinks he can just ignore it, and we have all these advocates. It doesn't make sense to me that he doesn't even know how. Okay, let me make sure y'all hear this.
Pushback. Tenants accusing City Hall of ignoring public housing. Pushback. Tenants accusing City Hall of ignoring NYCHA, and now they're holding their own meetings. Welcome back to the 10 o'clock news. I'm Steve Lacey.
And I'm Natasha Verma. Those who live in NYCHA buildings say that they're being left out of the mayor's rental ripoff hearings and feel like their complaints are being ignored.
All right, Fox 5's Michelle Ross has their message tonight.
NYCHA residents claim they've been left out.
I heard from the mayor's office and they say
I want to enter in right here and say, I don't know if Reverend McCall is a NYCHA resident. Does anybody know this man? And do you know if he's a NYCHA resident? Because Reverend McCall is someone I know of because of the Robert Brooks Jr. situation. And he was one of the organizers that made sure people got on the buses to go upstate over there in their Marcy Correctional Facility to demand attention on the Robert Brooks case, Robert Brooks Jr. But I don't know of him being a public housing resident. I don't know of him really at all. I didn't get to know him in any kind of way, know his name, recognize him until the Robert Brooks Jr. situation. So if you know, let me know in the comment section, because like I said, I didn't know Manny Martinez. I'm asking you, do you know if he's a NYCHA resident? Now, people that advocate and are in solidarity don't have to be NYCHA residents, but why are NYCHA residents not speaking up? Like, we have leadership in NYCHA. What's going on? Where's the NYCHA leadership? I know they didn't all pass away. We have citywide council presidents. They have so many of them that they have it broken down by northwest, all this kind of stuff, right? They're in regions. So where are the leaders of the NYCHA residents? I would like to know. Let's resume.
well, NYCHA residence is not excluded from the conversation, but NYCHA residence wasn't included in the conversation.
Mayor Mamdani's rental ripoff hearings were created to give renters a platform. A chance to tell city leaders about the conditions they're
Let me run into the beginning and see if it's going to play better. I don't understand why we getting all of this. This is for educational purpose. Why are we getting all of this interruptions? I don't know. This is ridiculous. Let's go.
Public housing pushback. Tenants accusing City Hall of ignoring NYCHA, and now they're holding their own meetings. Welcome back to the 10 o'clock. News. I'm Steve Lacey.
And I'm Natasha Verma. Those who live in NYCHA buildings say that they're being left out of the mayor's rental ripoff. Hearings and feel like their complaints are being ignored.
All right, Fox 5's Michelle Ross has their message tonight.
NYCHA residents claim they've been left out.
I heard from the mayor's office, and they say, well, NYCHA residence is not excluded from the conversation, but NYCHA residence wasn't included in the conversation.
Mayor Mamdani's rental ripoff hearings were created to give renters a platform, a chance to tell city leaders about the conditions they're living in, like lack of heat, leaks, mold, and other dangerous conditions, and to call out bad landlords.
The first town hall meetings he decides to host is about landlords, but he forgot to deal with the landlord in his own backyard.
They claim they weren't directly invited, like how other tenant association groups from private buildings were. A City Hall spokesperson says the mayor has been clear that no one will be turned away at the hearings. But NYCHA residents say they've been complaining about housing issues for years, and that they also want to be heard.
Woo, this is horrible. Buffering. What's going on?
So they held their own meeting in the Bronx at the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club at the Throgs Neck houses. There were about 50 people who showed up. Michelle Solomon, who lives at the Castle Hill houses, was one of them.
Now we have mice and roaches. And they coming for money per door.
Woo!
I can't live like that. You know, they're all over my clothes.
Residents say the problems in public housing are some of the worst in the city, and they wanted a seat at the table.
Most of the tenants have tickets that was made for complaints since 2019. And the repairs still haven't been made.
The mayor's office will be rolling out more engagement opportunities specifically focused on NYCHA. But in the meantime, NYCHA residents are welcome to RSVP for the next hearing. And the organizers will be holding this meeting in every borough across the city to gather information from NYCHA tenants. The next one is in Harlem on Thursday. Reporting in Throgs Neck, Michelle Ross, Fox 5 News.
Keep in mind, I never heard about that one in Harlem. I reached out to, an Instagram page asking about that meeting, and I didn't get a response. But that's not the point. The point is that you see that something's off. Nobody should be having no issues from 2019 that's been unresolved. That's ridiculous. They shouldn't even feel they shouldn't even feel they shouldn't even feel comfortable to tell anybody that. Like that's like it's like you having a lack of a follow up. You're not reaching out to your resources to try to get a nonprofit to help with the pressure of getting the repairs, making sure that people are explaining why. Because they say, oh, we don't have a contractor, there's not enough people that need it, we don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. There's supposed to be an excuse. You don't have it just limbo since 2019. That makes no sense. And that makes me feel like people are not being educated properly. And that's a shame and a disgrace on the organizers. It's a shame and a disgrace. Poor job. Horrible. There should be no tenant talking like that. That's ridiculous. And then you talking about you got rats, and we had a whole rat czar. So what did you do outreach to the rat czar? Like what is it? What is going on here? You know what I'm saying? Like you talking about something from another administration. We got to focus on Mandami because Mandami, he giving you a little attitude and acting like he don't got to deal with you. That's a problem. That was a see, ripoff. They have a thing of the ripoff meeting. And it seemed like it was wild, so ghetto. And I just think it's cray cray, but we gotta see this.
Amazon offers hourly.
Y'all gotta see this. Let me see.
from across Brooklyn rallied out outside the city's first ever rental ripoff hearings, an initiative by Mayor Zohran Mamdani's office offering New Yorkers a platform to voice concerns about poor building conditions. Residents say they've been fighting negligent landlords for decades over issues like lack of heat, dangerous mold, and long delayed repairs. Sienna Shundy says her Prospect Heights building struggles with a slew of problems.
We wake up in the morning, we don't know if we're going to have hot water. We don't know if the elevators are going to be working. There's pest issues. They admitted in court that we have a roach infestation. And then what have they done about it? And has there been anyone following up on that?
Tenants are demanding the city hold landlords accountable and end the practice of letting them claim violations have been fixed without proof.
I think that they need to be accountable for their slackness, and they're asking for more and more rent and what have you. We're getting less and less service. That's why I'm here.
At the hearing in downtown Brooklyn, tenants shared their top priorities for change directly with leaders from city agencies responsible for housing, tenant protection, and building safety. The hearings come as Mamdani moves to reshape the city's housing policy landscape. Sia Weaver, director of the mayor's office to protect tenants, says the goal is to give renters a stronger voice in that process.
In New York City, it is expensive to be a renter, and that many renters don't feel like they're getting the services that they need from their landlord every single month. We really want to hear from tenants about what are ways that the city can improve the process of making sure that they're getting the housing quality that they are paying for every month.
Standby for every month.
I hate it when it just like hold like that. But anyway, so the target person is Sia Weaver, and Sia Weaver can come to a NYCHA focused space. You understand? Like NYCHA has leadership that should be reaching out to her because we already have our own silos of groups. You understand what I'm saying? So you see how it seems like somebody is being motivated on something else. But anyway, make it make sense. We already have resident leadership. So if I don't see the resident leadership involved, I question it all. Because you talking about the city and NYCHA's city run. So how you gonna bypass city housing? When you say how that does not make no sense, it's not making sense to me. And you having a representative say that we haven't had issues addressed since 2019 is more ridiculous to me. What is going on? Because there's no way that should be going on without some kind of explanation. You should have documentation with them explaining, which they usually say, from my experience, I'm only talking from my experience, where they say, oh, well, our budget, we didn't have enough people that had the issue for us to get a contractor. You know, we have to get a contractor and all this kind of stuff. NYCHA has their own meetings where they talk about issues where they need to go over their budget for repairs. Does the housing authority, are they aware of these urgent issues in your buildings? Did they reach out to their borough management offices? Are they aware that they have a borough management? You understand what I'm saying? That's all the stuff that's supposed to be taken, being addressed in your resident association meetings. Something that most tenants don't even know or go to. You understand what I'm saying? So you see how it's ridiculous? And it should be, we should be beyond that now. Like we running in the same stupid circles decades later. decades done passed. We've already that stuff been addressed. And I said, wow, messy and stupid. And it always like that with poor people. Because that poor person, that person is not educated, doesn't just become educated. They didn't know, and they're not gonna know if no one's teaching them. So it comes back to the advocates. What is going on here? What's going on with the housing advocates? I need to. Something's wrong. This is weird to me. And I think that it's a problem. And it's a problem that people need to catch quick, because the mayor hasn't been in for 100 days yet. He's like on the 75th or 76th day. And if he's trying to exclude NYCHA on New York City housing, when he's covering, he's the one that's over New York City, that's a bad thing. That's bad. Oh, I wanted to show y'all what I recently learned from that meeting that I'm showing you Martinez was in. Let me show y'all.
We are jumpstarting.
Hopefully this won't hopefully this won't, what do we call this? Skip. Bad. I'll try to put it in our description, what I've been showing y'all. It's so ridiculous. Anyway, let's go. Already look like it's skipping.
Rose from struggles and resistance.
That's right. Our Jackie Kostick has a look at this new space. Jackie, this sounds cool.
Oh, Chris and Dana, it is really cool. I actually just took a walk around, and as we go throughout this morning, we're going to show you all of the different exhibits and really tell the story of why public housing is so important to the city of Chicago and our entire country, because it is a national museum. I'm here with Lisa Lee this morning, who is the executive director and has worked on bringing this to life for the last 18 years. Lisa, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jackie, and good morning, everybody.
First, congratulations for making this idea into a reality, and it's such a
OMG, I can't take it. Anyway, the bottom line is Chicago has a national public housing museum. They said, the lady said it's been going on for 18 years. I never heard about it. I never heard about that museum. I know they destroyed Cabrini Green, but I didn't know they had a museum. And I'm sure there's public housing leadership that knew that and had possibly been there. You understand? But I never heard about it. Nobody shared that information with me. And I'm a public housing resident. So I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people doing stuff. And it's not getting to everybody. It's not out there like that. But I'm not a gatekeeper. So I wanted to let y'all know about these things. Y'all can research it without having to get the interruptions that I'm getting. And I'll try to put these videos in the description. But again, I need to just be clear that pawns are playing games. Pawns playing with each other. We get nowhere. We're not moving up. And it's crazy. But thank you for hanging with me. And again, happy Women's History Month. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.